Good morning, my dear brothers and sisters. Like his resurrection appearance in the upper room, the resurrection appearance of Jesus along the shores of Tiberias was to demonstrate once and for all the reality of the resurrection. There were many who said that the appearances of the risen Christ were nothing more than visions which the disciples had. Many would admit the reality of the visions but insist that they were still only visions. Some would go further and say that they were not visions but hallucinations. But the Gospels go far out of their way to insist that the risen Christ was not a vision, not a hallucination, not even a spirit or a ghost, but a real person. The Gospels insist that the tomb was empty and that the risen Christ had a real body which still bore the marks of the nails and the spears thrust in his side. But what sets this particular resurrection appearance apart is that this story goes a step further. Jesus pointed out a shoal of fish to a party of fishermen. A spirit would not likely do that. Jesus kindled a charcoal fire on the seashore. A spirit would not likely do that. Jesus cooked a meal and shared out. A vision or a spirit would not likely do that. This story has all these. The risen Christ did all these things. So the first and simplest aim of this story is to make quite clear the reality of the resurrection. The risen Lord was not a vision, nor a figment of someone's excited imagination, nor the appearance of a spirit or a ghost. It was Jesus, real and alive, Jesus who had conquered death and has come back. But very noticeably, Jesus appeared to the disciples along the shores of Tiberias this time. The disciples had gone back to their original workplace, back to their regular routine of fishing. Days had already passed. Jesus had died. The storm had already passed. Now back to regular routine. They needed to work. They had families to feed. They had to go back to fishing. Yet in the ordinariness of their lives, Jesus appeared to them and they recognized him. The famous line was uttered, "It is the Lord." When they caught a great number of fish and they could not pull it in because of it was full of fish, they recognized Jesus. It is the Lord. Perhaps, my friend, this is a fitting reflection for all of us today. In the ordinariness of our lives, at work, in our day-to-day lives, do we recognize Jesus? When our nets are empty and suddenly it gets filled with fish, do we also say, "It is the Lord"? How often do we leave our Christianity in the church, and when back to business, the Lord is forgotten. He is not recognized. He is not proclaimed. How often, when we find success in life, when our pockets are filled with bounty, the credit goes to the self and not to the Lord. "I did it," we say, instead of, "It is the Lord who did it for me." It is the Lord who made this possible. It is the Lord who did all these. For indeed, it is He. Amen.